Hi buddy, welcome back. I'm the Strategy Professor, and today we're going to be looking at a preview for patch 12.2. So as always, if you enjoy the content, please be sure to like and subscribe. It really helps out a ton on the channel. Come by, check out the stream. It's on Twitch every night starting around 11:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, usually going until about 2:30 or 3 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. It's a very friendly, chill community. We'd love to have you. And be sure to check back every day on YouTube. I'm trying to release fresh content every day, something new for League of Legends, and I'm also covering Total War Warhammer, trying to do an episode in that every day in a Warhammer 2 campaign, and anytime Warhammer 3 information comes out, I'm going to be covering that as well, and I should be getting some early access to Warhammer 3 soon. I was approved for that, so stay tuned for that. And then I am going to be covering some Magic the Gathering. I've been working kind of behind the scenes on that, practicing a little bit, just so I could make sure that I can go through the turns fast enough to not bore you to tears on the channel when I decide to cover that. But that should be coming out sometime soon. So lots of content on the channel. Be sure to check all that out. Now, I did release a video. I already recorded one that was talking about a lot of this stuff on Surrender at 20, like the Janna changes, the Tahm Kench changes, and then what they were planning on doing on 12.2, which earlier today they released it without the numbers. And then this guy, Phlox, released this even later in the day, I guess on his personal Riot account, but they didn't copy it over or forward it or whatever the hell it's called on their LOL dev team, which is where most of the patch notes come out. So I didn't see this when I recorded the earlier video. So I've already been all through a lot of this without the numbers once, but I'm going to go through again just so that I can give you all of the most accurate numbers as we go through this. So there are a lot of changes here, and I think most of them are going to be good changes, very interesting changes for the game, particularly what they're doing with Tahm Kench and Janna. I think will probably be pretty good. They didn't even link all the changes there. Okay, that's all right. It's just a couple of clicks. We can go get the Janna stuff again. But let's go through this. All right, so champion buffs. Nocturne's getting a little bit more HP per level. His Q-AD ratio is going up to 0.85, so I guess that's good. I feel like Nocturne's like not that bad right now. That new item that lowers the cooldown on ultimates whenever you get a kill or an assist is pretty good on him, and I don't know, it's a strange buff to me because I feel like he's not that bad of a champion. He's already pretty good in the meta. I've seen several in my games over the last couple of weeks, and they've seemed pretty good to me. So strange buff, but okay. There's that Volibear. Now he has been kind of out of the meta for a while. They are lowering the cooldown of his E, which I believe is his charge. Maybe not. I don't remember exactly what the E is, but I think that's his mobility. So I guess that's okay. Volibear's kind of in a weird spot where it just seems like he gets outscaled a lot of times. But at the same time, I have seen some Volibears do very well. I'm not sure about the builds. I know some people are still trying to go the AP builds, but I do believe they hit that pretty hard as far as like the Gnasher's Tooth kind of build. So I'm not really sure what you buy on in these days, but I think it's okay to have him in the meta. He has a decently interesting kit with his ability to jump onto the back line and to shut off towers and things like that. So it's cool to see a little buff on him. Yasuo and Yone, they said that the nerfing of Shield Bow did hurt these champions a decent amount, and I suppose that's true, but I still feel like really high skill cap Yones and Yasuos have been able to find success on this patch. Yes, of course, there's always the meme of, the silver Yasuo player or whatever, the 0 and 10 power spike. But I still feel like he's been pretty strong lately, and Yone, so I'm not sure that we need that nerf or that we need that buff, but okay, I mean, those are interesting champions in the meta. I know some people really, really hate Yasuo because of that win wall, but I think that they are interesting champions, so okay, sure. Veigar QCD is going down by 1 second, so he's going to be able to charge his stacks faster, and then his stacks from large minions, he's getting 3 now instead of just 2. So that's a pretty good buff to his stacks overall. I think he's going to be kind of relegated to the same position that he currently is in. He does a lot of damage, and he's really good at champions that don't have any ways to blink around his wall. But if champions can blink around the wall, then they can kill him. I personally don't like Veigar a lot in the meta because I like to play Rakan a lot of the time, and he's very good in a Rakan. So on a personal level, I don't like to see it, but I guess, he could use a few buffs, so I guess that's all right. Tristana These are some huge buffs. So they're giving her 31 extra HP at level 1, or 41, excuse me, extra HP at level 1. So her all-in dive level 2 is going to be much more dangerous. And then she's getting some extra HP regeneration per level, which is kind of whatever. But getting that extra health early is really big because she does like to get in there, be physical, jump in, try to get those jumps reset. And I think she's a lot better than, maybe they're giving her credit for. I don't know what her win rate is. But if she's put in the right kind of situation and she snowballs really hard, if she gets a kill or two, she's a very, very difficult champion to stop. Especially at kind of that mid to high level play where people know how to buffer her Q, or her W rather, so that she can jump and basically make it become immune to CC when she does that jump. If you guys have never seen that, just look at it on YouTube. She can jump out of like blitz hooks. I don't know if she can get out of thresh hooks or not. She can get out of like Nautilus ultimates. Just all sorts of things that she can buffer her jump and get through. So she's a really obnoxious champion, in my opinion, for engaged champions to deal with. She also, of course, has her ult, which does a ton of damage at early levels and is additional peel. She has good wave clear. She takes tower plates really quickly. She has long range late game for team fights. She doesn't have much in the way of AoE damage late fight, so she still can get outscaled by things like Jinx, like Twitch, and team fights. But she's going to be one of the best snowball early game champions that can really take over. So, a little dangerous to buff her, but that'll be interesting. Okay, then Senna, now her Q slows people by 20% for 2 seconds when she lands that. So I think that's good. Give her a little bit of extra utility. I believe I guess this is going to give more power to what her grasp builds. I don't know if that's still a thing or not. Or just something other than Glacial Augment. Because I guess maybe they changed Glacial Augment. I know they did, but I can't remember if she still gets that or not. But this will give her more utility where she doesn't have to have that to get the slow. So I guess that's good. I really haven't seen Senna in a ton of games these days, so it's probably good to show her a little love. She does have a very unique kit. So bringing her into the meta is probably good. Samira, I don't know why this is yellow. If that's like that may not go through or what, I'm not sure. But Samira, her R bullets are doing, looks like 5 more damage per level. That can add up. I'm not sure exactly how much a fully charged thing does, but if you think about it, percentage-wise, it's hard to say. So if you have like 50 AD at level 6, then you would be doing 55 damage per bullet, and now you're going to be doing 60 damage per bullet. So I guess that's maybe 10% more damage. So I don't know how much more damage this is, honestly. At later levels, it's going to be less as a percentage because you're going to have a much higher base AD, and it's still only 5 more per level all the way up. So early on, you're looking at 10%. Maybe really late game, it's only like 5% more damage. I'm not sure. I'm not entirely sure that fixes all of her problems. The nerf to shield bow is probably pretty rough on her because that was one thing that was very strong, is the shield bow plus something like Bloodthirster was really powerful life-stealing machine with the rest of her kit. So I don't know it's entirely going to bring her back, but she is pretty good right now if you can play her properly. And you kind of have to have the right team comp where the enemy has a bunch of melees and you're going to be able to get resets, but I don't think it's going to change her position in the meta too much. Okay, nerfing Shen a little bit. So his Q is going down to 4% of the target's max HP, down from 5%. Now that may not sound like a lot, but that's quite a bit because he gets 3 empowered auto attacks with that Q. So that really does add up over time. But a lot of the rest of his kit is intact. He still has really high base stats. He still has, the really strong shield on the ultimate. The ability to go across the map. Still has a very long stun duration or taunt or whatever it is off of his E. So a lot of his kit is still intact. He's just going to do less sustained damage over time, which is going to hurt him in some of those one-on-one trades. So I think he'll still probably be pretty good. But this will definitely dial him back a little bit, especially in that early to mid game before he gets his Titanic Hydra, when a lot of his damage is going to be based on those empowered Qs. Okay, then we have Talon. Bonus monster damage is down a lot. That's probably going to gut Talon out of the jungle. I personally have not seen Talon overperform in the jungle. He's been alright, but people just love to complain about Talon in like Challenger level games. So, I don't know. Talon just always feels like he gets nerfed when he really shouldn't a lot of times because he annoys people in higher elos. But I thought he was interesting to have in the meta. I mean, I'm not super sad that he's gone. You know, assassins tend to love to sit on bot lane and, you know, try to get kills. But I guess that's fine. That's a really, really massive nerf, I think, to his wave clear, or in the jungle specifically. So we'll see. I think that'll probably push him out of the jungle and then keep him in mid lane. I think they just need to decide, do they want this kind of stuff to be in the jungle or not, as far as like Talon and Zed, because it feels like every few patches they just like completely overbuff their damage to monsters or completely gut them in terms of damage to monsters. So we'll just see where they decide to go with it. Kiana, the grass zone, so that's her invisibility. Lasts for half a second less. That's good. That's a really long invisibility. Hi, Roy. Daddy's recording a video real quick, okay? And then we can play in just a minute.
Well, I just came here.
Okay. You can draw if we can be quiet while Daddy finishes this video. That'd be great. Okay. So, I don't know. Again, I think she's okay. I don't think she's too far over the top for your average Bear, right? Like, yes, I'm sure there are one-trick Kianas and Challenger that are taking over, but she seems okay to me. And this doesn't seem like a super, like, huge nerf, so I guess that's fine. Lulu is getting her W reduced. Sorry, guys. There's just a lot going on over here.
You're too loud while you are recording.
Okay, you want to go in the other room real quick, and then I'll find you when I'm done?
How can I carry all these?
So, it's 1 extra second on the W. That's okay. I mean, the thing is, like, Lulu at higher elos is probably one of the better enchanters to be playing, but it, you know, platinum and lower, it's really Sona and Soraka that are taking over win rate wise, and most of that is just Moonstone. So I'm kind of surprised that Moonstone's not nerfed here, and then they don't just give, you know, a small buff to Sona or Soraka. Because, like, that Moonstone in so many games where I see Soraka and Sona, it's like over 10,000 healing from one item, which is pretty absurd, in my opinion, on those types of champions. I've seen somewhere it's like 15,000 healing. It's just, even with everyone having grievous wounds, it's just an obscene amount of healing, and there's almost no counterplay to that. It's like, what do you do other than grievous wounds? Other than trying to blow them up, right? But it's easier said than done sometimes with some of the builds they have out there, so... Anyways, it was a little weird that they're nerfing Lulu compared to the other ones that have a higher win rate, but I think it's just because in really high elo, you know, if you want to run an enchanter and you pair Lulu with something like a Jinx or like an Aphelios, maybe it's a little overwhelming in higher elo brackets. I'm not sure, but okay, Lulu's getting a tap with the W. She'll still be good, but that 1 second does matter because that's one of her most powerful abilities. And then Zed, our base damage 100% AD down to 65. What? Dude, that is a massive nerf, right? 35% less scaling? That's a minimum 35 like AD less damage, which is already a lot. I know there's amplifiers on it, but my god, is he really that much of a problem? Like, again, Zed can be strong, he can be annoying for people to deal with, but as far as I know, historically, he has almost no pro presence. And I don't think his win rate in solo queue is that high. I've got to look at this now. This is just like, what's going on here? Bring this down a little bit. It's like, what's going on? I mean, I know he's banned a lot. It's like 50% win rate. I know everyone's banning him, but like, if you just look at his win rate, it's not even 51, right? And I guess, if we look at Challenger, 48% in Challenger with a 4% pick rate. So it's like, who are they banning this for? Because what they've said is that elite tiers or whatever, which I think is Masters Plus, they look at, I think total represent, I don't remember if it's in Pro or in Masters. They've changed their criteria, but it's something like it has to be played a lot. I know in Pro it's like 80% presence is what they look at for nerfs. And then I think even in Challenger it's like win rates. But, you know, in Challenger, it's 48% win rate. It only has a 27% presence. And then when we looked at Platinum, it only had it has a high ban rate at 48%. But they've said specifically they don't look at ban rates for like platinum and lower, because basically they've come out and, you know, they said it in some kind of PC way, but they said most people don't know what they're talking about. They don't ban for balance, they ban for annoyance. They ban for stuff that, you know, they don't want to play against, rather than stuff that is, you know, objectively powerful, right? So, yeah, and I mean, that's kind of how they've done it. Like, they're not banning Yone on this one, or they're not nerfing Yone or Morgana or Irelia or whatever, so I don't really know why they're nerfing Zed. I feel like he's fine. I feel like he's a pretty interesting champion as far as the assassins go in general. Once again, I don't play Zed. I don't play with people who play Zed. I feel like I beat Zed a lot of the time. But that's just such a heavy-handed nerf. And I'm just not sure who they're... Because, like I said, I'm pretty sure there's, like, no pro presence on him. I haven't watched, like, the first week of pros in Season 12 here so far. But I would be shocked if Zed is, like, running over mid lane right now. Yeah, it's 0 Zed. Across every region in the world in Season 12, and he was almost never played in Season 11. There's no Zed. So it doesn't meet the criteria for Challenger. It doesn't meet the criteria for Pro. It doesn't meet the criteria for Platinum and lower. As far as, like, they've explained it in the past with their sort of guidelines for when they think about banning or buffing champions. So I'm not really sure, like, what's warranting this hard of a nerf on this champion. Again, I don't have a horse in the race. It's just exceedingly weird, right? Like, the Talon thing I can kind of see, like, in high elo, it's probably annoying, or the Kiana. I still don't really get those, but these are, like, this is a minor nerf on Kiana, in my opinion. This is, like, a freaking sledgehammer to Zed, I think. So, anyways, okay, Tahm Kench. So what they're doing here is his gray health, they're pretty much gutting it for top lane, so you're not going to be able to regenerate as much damage with your gray health unless there are 2 or more nearby visible enemies. Well, you're generating less gray health. The percentage of health that you get from your percentage of gray health is going to be a little bit higher, but you have to be near other people in order to get the same level of gray health. So what does this mean? Basically, in trading top lane, he's going to be a lot weaker. His shields are going to be weaker, and he's not going to be able to regenerate as much. But in bot lane, where there are multiple people around, he's still going to get the same percentage of gray health, and the amount that you heal, if you don't activate the shield, just the amount of regeneration that you get, is going to be 45% instead of 30%. So you're going to do much, much better with healing. I don't know how to turn this thing down. My wife's taking care of my daughter right now, but she might squeal a little bit, and I don't want to annoy you guys too much while she's getting changed. But anyways, so that should be better sustain for the bot lane. And then as far as the R's shield goes, you're getting 100 extra shield at early levels, and you're getting up to 900 shield at later levels, and you have additional 150% AP, or extra 50% ability power scaling. Now that's a little weird. They've been kind of trying to push this AP Tahm Kench a little bit. I think they gave his Q a better ratio. It's got a pretty good ratio on it. His R has a really good ratio on it, but I don't think it has any interaction with your gray skin, and I don't remember what the ratio is on your W. But I still don't think you're going to get AP on him. I mean, I was thinking, like, maybe Demonic Embrace or something like that could be kind of good as a bruisery, you know, sort of item, but you're probably still not going to be getting that. Hold on one second. Okay. I can't turn it off. We'll just throw it in the other room. It's so hard to get a peace and quiet video these days, but anyways, again, not neglecting her. My wife's changing her in the other room. She just freaks out whenever she gets changed. But anyways, so it's okay. And the Q slow is going up a little bit too, from 40% over to 50%, so that is nice. Is this going to be enough to bring him back to the support role? Possibly. but I still think he's going to have a really, really hard time against like Sona or Soraka or just something else that's going to outscale him just because it's really hard for him to threaten the back line. Right? I think that's something that you have to do right now. You have to lock up the Soraka or the Jinx or whatever that's destroying you on the back line. And this is why a lot of the peeler tanks just have not done well for the last couple of years. Consistently, it's just the enchanters scale too hard in solo queue to keep up with that. And in pro, they just don't have enough power to stop some of these backline threats. So that's why, champions like Tahm Kench, Braum, Taric, most of those types of champs have had a hard time. Now, there have been some other ones that have been all right, but I don't think it's going to bring him back in. Now, maybe if you're against another tank, if you're against a Leona or a Thresh or a Nautilus, like this might be a pretty decent answer to them again. And that's where he shined, really, when he was in the meta. He was a very different champion back then when his, W used to be able to devour people and his ultimate gave you a lot of map pressure. But I don't quite think this is going to be enough to bring him back. The most important one most people are talking about is probably the 40% extra movement speed whenever you devour an ally is pretty nice. So, I mean, that does allow you to reposition. It's just the cooldown on the R is so long. I think they really need to make it like 90 seconds or something like that, like to match Leona's ult. I just feel like 120, it just doesn't do enough for 120, right? You can't point click it and do a ton of damage to somebody. It requires setup. And you can only protect one ally for a limited amount of time with the R. Now, it is a very big shield, and you do get that movement speed, so, like, it's good. But I just don't think it's going to be enough at the end of the day. So, we'll see. Maybe we'll try him out some, but I think it'll be a problem. We'll say Janna for the Yang, so I'm going to have to click on a different tab to go get that. Actually, no, I've got it right here, I think. Janna might have been up a little bit higher. So let's go ahead and cover Janna here real quick. As soon as I find her. No, wait, that's Zeri. Is Janna down here? Yeah, here we go. So they've previewed most of this stuff, but they did make some adjustments to Janna fairly recently. So the biggest things to note here, and I guess just for the sake of brevity, we won't go through all of these in depth because I would love to keep this under 30 minutes. But pretty much her movement speed when she's just moving around the map is going to be about the same because she's going from 350. So what it was previously is you would gain 8% bonus movement speed, and then you got so much off of points into your W. So the 8% bonus movement speed was about 25 bonus movement speed. Okay? So that means effectively you had like 340 bonus movement speed when you are, running around the map. Well, now she's going to have 330 base, which scales a lot better. If you get movement speed items like a Shirelia's or something like that, your base movement speed is going to be higher. So it could help you out in those types of scenarios. Just anything that says gives X percentage extra movement speed. But then your W also is going to be giving you a little bit more per level movement speed. So it's moving from basically 6% to 8%. It's pretty much 2% at all levels. And 2% movement speed is going to be 6 or 7 flat movement speed based on your 230, about 7. So basically, when you're just normally walking around the map, you're going to be moving at 337, which is pretty much what it was before. So that hasn't changed that much. However, if you are moving towards allies, you get an additional 8% on top of that. So now you're going to be moving a lot faster when you're moving towards allies. Now, I don't know the range on that. If it's like 3,000 range, that's going to be really good. If it's like 1,000 range or something like that, it's kind of whatever. So some of that's just going to depend on, the range on it. And I don't think it's telling us what that is. So anyways, it's basically a buff in a lot of situations. And if it is a nerf, if you're not moving towards allies, it's very minor. The attack range going to 500. Now, this is going to matter maybe for really elite levels of play where people are auto-attacking a ton as Janna. But for most levels of play, people are not going to be attacking with Janna that much. So I don't think it's going to matter as much in most play. Howling Gale, not a lot new here. It's a little bit less on the mana cost at later levels. Doesn't matter. You're almost always just going to put 1 point in Q in this. Now, the fact that it does move a lot faster from 1.5 down to 1.25 is going to matter, specifically in the Leona matchup where you really need to disrupt her quickly, but that'll definitely feel a lot better when that happens. And then as far as Zephyr goes, it's 550 edge to edge rather than 650 center to center. That's this really old school way of measuring from like season 1, so they're just kind of changing the squirrel code there. I don't think it's going to matter that much. I think it ends up being about the same range, although I don't know the exact mathematics. Maybe someone like Freak will come out and tell you the exact math on that, but I think it's about the same most of the time. Some champions are going to have much larger models around their edge. You know, something like a big Cho'Gath is going to have a much bigger model than like a Teemo. But in general, I think it's going to be about the same. You do get a longer slow. A 3-second slow instead of a 2-second slow is very, very big deal. I mean, that's 50% longer slowed, especially on something that doesn't decay. So if you get like 3 points of W in lane, you know, a 32% slow for 3 seconds is a really, really long time on that slow. So that's very nice. The cooldown is also... the cooldown is increased to 12 seconds. Okay, so you're not going to be able to spam it as much as you could in the laning phase. The damage is going up by 15. However, it does not deal damage based on your movement speed anymore. So I think this is a net nerf overall to the W's damage. So you're getting more utility out of it with a bigger slow. But you're not going to be able to spam it as much. And it's just going to be less damage. So the old like max W, take Comet, and you know get mobility boots first, and just try to like spam W's on people is going to be a weaker setup overall. However, they are increasing the power of your E a lot, I think, and they just added this in recently. So the cooldown is lowered from 16 to 12 down to 15 to 9, so that's good. We knew that was coming. So basically it has one built-in proc. It used to reduce the cooldown by 20%, about 1/5 whenever you hit someone with a piece of CC. This is reducing it by 25% for free when it's there, so I think that's nice. It just adds a little bit more consistency. Now if you're just running up and shielding somebody and you don't have time to W or you don't have time to Q, it's still going to be a much lower cooldown, so that's good. The time before the shield decays is 1.25 seconds, so again, you're getting a little bit more value there in a lot of situations. It's hard to know exactly what that is because the decay rate is kind of funky, and then the person's going to be taking damage while it decays. So I don't know all of the math on that, but it's a bigger shield effectively in a lot of situations. The shield amount is going to be lowered a little bit at the top end. So instead of being 220, it's going to be 200, and the ratio is going down a little bit. So that kind of sucks, but again, you're effectively getting a bigger shield off of this right here. And this is the new thing they just added. The effect changed to impairing a champion's movement ability grants you plus 20% healing and shielding for 5 seconds. That is massive. That's very, very big in terms of Janna scaling. Because now if you just W somebody or Tornado or whatever, it increases your entire kit. So it's going to give 20% extra plus healing and shielding on your shield, but it's also going to affect Redemption, it's going to affect Moonstone, it's going to affect your ultimate, Revitalize. I mean, anything out there that could be doing some healing, Font of Life, it's going to increase that, and that's a lot. So now if you take Moonstone, that's 35%. Then you get 20% just passively, basically off of Janna's kit with this. So that's 55, and then if you add a Redemption onto that, then you're going to be getting 80% or 75%, which is insane. 75% plus healing and shielding, basically off of 2 items. And if you throw in Revitalize, that's a different kind of proc there. But like an empowered Revitalize is going to be an additional 15%. So that's 90% plus healing and shielding. So that's going to be really, really strong in a lot of situations. It's not going to be enough to fully go toe-to-toe with like a Sona in a 5v5 in terms of, overall healing and shielding. But it's going to be really good in a lot of circumstances. And Janna's a much better skirmisher and peeler than Sona is too. So if Janna's coming anywhere close, to the numbers in team fights that Sona does, then she's really overperforming because there's a lot less risk with her. But yeah, I think that's going to be really, really good. And a lot of people are overlooking that. So we'll definitely try out Janna again. Like a lot of enchanters, she has a really hard time like starting fights. but she does rotate exceptionally well around the map. She can self-peel really well, so she can, afford to go deep in the enemy jungle, get some good wards, and it's just a lot harder to catch her and punish her. So Janna's an old favorite of mine. I know that's like a meme with support players, Janna, but she was my most played champion most of the time up until really Season 7 when Rakan came out. Really, it was Season 8 that I picked up Rakan and started playing him a lot. But anyways, that's a very good buff for Janna. And then her Monsoon, the heal tick rate is going to be much faster, so 0.25 instead of 0.5, which is great because people always run out of this. And now they might get, one final tick before they run out. So it's not like a massive deal, but it does help out some in terms of adding some extra consistency to your ultimate. I still wish when they blew everyone back with the Monsoon that it gave everyone a shield instead of a heal. And that way they don't have to stand in it. And I think that would fit more thematically with her peeling, shielding, kind of setup. But it is what it is. Okay, so that... overall, I think is a buff for how the vast majority of people are going to play Janna. Yes, maybe that, the handful of challenger Jannas that just, spammed W and took Comet and were, hyper-aggressive. Maybe it is going to nerf them a little bit. But I think for, like I said, 95% of the Janna players out there, this is going to be a really big buff. And it's going to make her a lot stronger if you don't snowball early in the mid to late game. So it's just going to give her a lot more consistency. If you fall behind in lane or, your ADC is just not helping you harass or whatever. Okay, and then Rengar can now leap from Camouflage. So this is going to work with the Chemtech map. And it's also going to work with Senna if you want to run a Rengar support Senna bottom. That's kind of a meme people have been talking about. Kind of like running Ivern and Rengar bot lane. It could be a cute, combination just for fun. But... Rengar does need some help. I just think it's weird that he is so dependent on the dragons right now. I feel like to be a useful champion, he's got to either have the Bush Dragon or the Chemtech Dragon. So, I don't know. It makes him so linear. My main problem with that is you don't know what kind of dragons it's going to be in Champion Select. If you knew what the dragons were, then that would make it a bit more interesting, right? If you knew how to play Rengar and you saw it was going to be the Fog map, then maybe you pick Rengar, right? And especially in professional play, then they could play around that a little bit more. So I wish you had a bit more predictive power with it. But right now, he's one of the most dependent on the map champions out there. Or I guess I'll say the map influences his effectiveness more than almost anybody with how that fog works. But anyways, okay, and then system buffs. So they're giving Lichbane 15 extra haste. They are knocking off 75 base AD. They are giving it 10% extra AP, and they're lowering the cooldown to 1.5 seconds. I feel like that's a huge nerf. I don't know. It does have haste on it, but I feel like a lot of champions who get that, and I don't think there are that many champions that are getting Lichbane these days, but they want that burst damage, right? Even though you're not buying a lot of AD, it still is your base AD. So just the AD that you get per level affects this. So even if you're a mage and you only have 80 AD or something in the mid game, that's basically taking it from... I don't know exact math, maybe 95 AD, all the way, 95 contribution to the damage, all the way down to, 65 or something. Okay, thank you, Rory. So, you're losing, 30 damage or something in that scenario on a proc, which is a pretty big deal. Okay, thank you. So, basically, I don't know the exact math and breakpoints on different champions, but I would say for this to be damage positive, you're probably going to have 200 or 300 AP. Probably closer to 300 AP with a lot of champions. Different mages will obviously have different base ADs. But maybe you scale out of it if you get really, really high, with the scaling. But, I don't know. The ability haste does allow you to cast your abilities. Obviously going from a 2.5 second cooldown to a 1.5 is cool. Maybe some champs can play around that where you use one ability and then you wait 1.5 seconds, use another ability, and you wait another 1.5 seconds, use another ability. But I think a lot of people with Lichbane just want to have higher burst, I would imagine. They'd definitely be willing to wait that extra 1 second in order to do, 30 or 40 more damage. So, at best, I would call that neutral. rather than a buff. But I don't know. Maybe I'm mistaken. It says the build path has changed. I don't know exactly what it's going to be. Something that has ability haste, presumably. But anyways, Rylai's. Okay, I love this change to Rylai's. And they keep going back and forth on should Rylai's be a big ticket mage item or not. I think it should always be a utility mage item. I love it at the 2,500 to 2,600 mark. You know, just like Banshees, Zanyas, you know, those types of items. I think it should be much closer to that than, you know, a big damage item you would want to buy. That also opens it up and makes it more viable as for supports. I don't think a lot of supports are going to get it, like your Zyras and your Brands probably aren't going to get that as often as they used to, although they might sometimes. They are taking away 15 AP, which is about 300 gold value, and they are giving it 50 extra health, which is a little weird because most champs would rather have the AP, but okay, they're sort of doubling down the survivability. That's like 100, 150 extra gold worth of health. So you're gaining a little bit of cost value on this, but the big thing is just making it a cheaper item, making it 2,600, so there might be some champs that actually get it. So overall, I think that's a pretty good move. Lethal Tempo, they're taking it down to 5 to 9% per stack. Okay, so basically they're saying this is a lot weaker until level 9, and then after level 9, it's going to be stronger. So nerf to early game, buff to late game. I guess that's fine. Okay, I'm almost done, then we can. Hextech Soul, okay, you're getting a little bit less damage. The thing about Souls, people complain about Souls all the time. They're so rare. It's like 1 out of 50 games or something that somebody's going to have a Soul. Because someone has to get all 4 dragons, and then they also have to get the Soul. And you have to wonder how many games are determined, you know, by that Soul. Games that already weren't like where the team that gets it was heavily, heavily favored, right? Because if someone has 4 dragons in a lot of games, they're probably pretty favored. There are definitely scenarios, right, where a team who's behind somehow manages to get the dragons, you know, and they're down 5k gold, but they're up 4k dragons, and they get the Soul. I guess I'm thinking Elder Dragon. Okay, so you do see Souls more than you see, like, Elder Dragons. So maybe it's not, you know, whatever I said, 1 out of 50, 1 out of 20 games. Maybe it's like 1 out of 10 games. But I don't know. It just feels like people who get Soul are already pretty far ahead. I don't know. It's probably fine. Sure, they're nerfing that a little bit. I know the zombie thing. People like to complain about the zombie thing. I think that's fine. And the Chemtech Terrain. What is this? Out of combat. When you go back into camouflage, is 2.5 seconds after you get spotted. Okay. You're always camo when you enter into the zone. Okay, I'll do it in just a second. Damage amplification up to 10%, up to 12%. What does that even mean? I didn't even know that it amps your damage. I'll have to look that up, but okay, that's fine. The Chemtech Terrain, it feels like it shows up a lot in my games. Maybe I just remember the Chemtech Terrain, but it feels like it's much, much more often than like 1 out of every 6 games. It feels like it's a lot. But anyways, okay, well that's going to be it for this video. We'll keep it under 40 minutes. So let me know what you think in the comments. Like I said, I like most of these changes. Some of them, like the Zed and like the Talon, are a little bit of head scratchers for me. But the Kench change is good. It's a move in the right direction. I don't know that he's going to crack into the meta anymore. I do think the Janna game could be very big, and she could be good situationally in different kinds of comps. So there are some pretty good things going on here. I don't think a lot of this is going to be super meta changing. If I had to predict which one of these would impact the meta the most, I would say probably the Janna one. But some of these other ones will definitely help out, you know, some of the champs out there that could use a little love. But anyways, that's going to be it. Thank you very much. Have a good day. Be sure to like and subscribe, and I'll see you next time.